Scouts, young people, worldwide, eager to learn, together, helping one another, in service to one another. International cooperation. Australian Scouting has a long tradition of cooperation with its scouting neighbours in international joint service projects of real benefit to the community in which they take place. Australian Scouts, in cooperation with their host Scouts, have worked in Papua New Guinea, have laid water pipes to villages in Indonesia, assisted the growth of Scouting in Kiribati, supplied bicycles to commissioners in Kenya, and most recently worked for 8 years on sanitation and child health in Bangladesh. But joint international service projects benefit many more people than those in the village who receive the tangible evidence of a village well or toilet. Joint international service projects benefit the Scouts who travel from overseas. They learn about the life in another country and culture, often very different to their own. They make friends with young people their own age, friends for life. The Scouts who host the project develop planning skills in preparing to receive large groups of foreign Scouts who need help in accommodation, preparing and buying food, interacting with government departments, arranging transport and much more. National Scout associations work through the communication difficulties to establish priorities and protocol. Cooperation is the key to success. Publicity, government and wider community appreciation of Scouting values is all possible both in the host and sending countries. Taking part in a joint international service project may be the biggest challenge a Scout ever faces, and the personal rewards are immeasurable. The Bangladesh Australia Child Health or BARC project commenced in 1986 as a joint community development project of Scouts and Guides in Bangladesh and Australia. Twice a year, teams of Australian Scouts and Guides travel to Bangladesh. From the capital Dhaka, the teams travel by bus and ferry to villages in remote parts of the country. A warm welcome was extended to the teams as they arrived in their village. Following an opening ceremony involving many local dignitaries, mixed patrols of Bangladeshi and Australian Scouts and Guides were formed. Each patrol was allocated a section of the village to work in for the duration of the project. Needless to say, lasting friendships quickly formed. Each morning, Bangladeshi and Australian Scouts and Guides would meet near the village schoolhouse. For the Australians, this usually meant a journey by bus or boat of half an hour from their accommodation. After a quick briefing, patrols headed for their sections of the village, usually with an escort of young children. With the guidance of local Scout and Guide leaders, patrols would visit many of the 50 to 100 houses in their section of the village. Lunch back at the schoolhouse often involved games with local children, guides and Scouts. After lunch, patrols would visit more of their houses before ending the day back at the schoolhouse. The Australians would then travel back to their accommodation in a nearby town. With frequent contact over a 3-week period, the project became part of the day-to-day life of the village. Whether collecting information, spreading health messages, growth monitoring or constructing latrines, the presence of Bangladeshi and Australian Scouts and Guides could not be missed. Growth monitoring was carried out by patrols of Guides and Scouts. Children, including babies, were weighed and measured and the results recorded at the start of the project in each village. The day-to-day project work included education about weaning food, distribution of worming tablets, development of kitchen gardens and vaccination of animals. The recipe for oral rehydration solution, a low-cost treatment for diarrhea, was demonstrated many times. Tube wells are a vital source of water. Broken tube wells were repaired and drainage platforms constructed to ensure all members of the community had access to clean, safe water. The installation of water-sealed latrines to replace existing facilities complemented the health education work of the project. Scouts and Guides worked alongside village people to dig holes up to 10 metres deep. These holes were then reinforced as necessary with concrete rings before the water-sealed top was put in place. A highlight of the project work in each village was the baby show day held at the conclusion of the Australian team's visit. The health education messages of the previous 3 weeks were reinforced to hundreds of people. Information stalls and slideshows were run by Bangladeshi and Australian scouts and guides. Babies were also judged and the healthiest babies awarded prizes. For the Australian scouts and guides, the cultural experience was not limited to the village. Shopping in the markets for food and other items was an event not to be missed, and many Australians became quite adept at bargaining in the local custom. Seemingly suicidal rickshaw rides were also popular. Members of the 2 teams took part in the Bangladesh Jamboree, whilst all teams visited institutions and sites of significance near the village. A 4-person evaluation team from Australia travelled to Bangladesh in March 1994. The team visited most of the 24 Bark Project villages and was ably assisted by Dr. S.K. Roy, a scientist at the International Centre for Diarrheal Disease Research in Dhaka. Through interview of mothers and measurement of height, weight, head circumference and the mid-upper arm circumference, the evaluation team concluded that the Bark Project has made a large impact on child health in the project villages. The vast majority of children weighed and measured fall within 2 standard deviations of the nutritional mean. Apart from statistical measures of success, the Bark Project has seen a raising of awareness in both Bangladesh and Australia of child health issues. This can be seen, for example, in the badges for knowledge of oral rehydration, breastfeeding and immunisation, which have been introduced into the Bangladesh Scouts program. For both Australian and Bangladeshi participants, the project has seen the development of mutual understanding and lifelong friendships. In the end, however, if one baby's life is saved, if one child's chance of survival is increased, and if the health of one village is improved, then the project has been a success. And so with the end of one program of joint cooperation, another begins. The Nepal Australia Good Turn for the Environment Nature Project sees a shift from health issues to environment issues. Whereas the Bark Project moved from village to village for each team visit, the Nature Project is setting out to create a renewable timber resource for a single village. Over a period of 5 years commencing December 1994, 2 teams per year will visit the village of Christie, near the west central Nepalese town of Pokhara in the shadow of the Annapurna Ranges. Living in Pokhara, the teams will walk out each day in conjunction with the Nepalese Scouts to work in the valley slopes below Christie, preparing the site for the planting of some 20,000 trees over 5 years. The trees themselves will provide many needed resources for the villagers. Harvested foliage will provide fodder for animals, timber for cooking and building, and the trees themselves will stabilise landslips occurring in the valley due to deforestation. The villagers and the village children will themselves join in the program. Cooperation. The local forestry department is assisting with the supply of saplings. Cooperation. The local government officers have indicated the possibility of establishing a seed nursery in the village. Cooperation. Local scouts and Australian scouts will work hand in hand to realise this project. Cooperation. Many national scout organisations around the world come together in an atmosphere of just such cooperation to work together in community projects. Whether the links are east-west or north-south, the directions are not important. Actions by scouts speak louder than words. Cooperation, together, for the benefit of people and their communities.